shall not be found wanting. If pressed for battle, then we will answer. Order the fall commanders to make ready their men. You heard him? Get ready!
In the year following Imhotep's death, Imhotep's son had been given the rank of pharaoh, but Apis had slowly married himself into the Egyptian royal dynasty of Imhotep. And basically, Apis made sure that he tried to secure his legitimacy, his fame, his renown. Gaining the support of the high priests of Thebes and Memphis, he made himself their patron, and he swore to all the other Egyptian families that he would become the legitimate pharaoh, not Imhotep's illegitimate son, who had basically become a figurehead. While a slaver ship had been found kidnapping native Egyptian women, Apis, in the meanwhile, ordered their public execution, which gained him much renown among the Egyptian nobles and the Egyptian people. Meanwhile, all Imhotep's illegitimate son could pretty much do was sit in the royal palace of Memphis and Thebes and act as a figurehead. There wasn't much that he could do, because Apis would make sure to kill him, or Apis would make sure to assassinate him. More or less, with Apis' royal spy, he found fame and renown through one manner. Every time the Aksumites and the Kushites sent an army, Apis' royal spy would find them, which means Apis would go and destroy them each and every time. So as you can see here, Apis was becoming a legend, a Chad. He was ordained by Osiris. One of the high priests of Memphis and Thebes had given Apis a vision that he would come and arrest the destiny of Kush and Aksumite. Within a few years, Apis would destroy the Aksumite and Kushites. He would secure freedom for Egypt, and that would then mean having to destroy the Greek Ptolemaic overlords. But with each victory came each renown. Basically put, Apis was becoming the figurehead, the legend, the Chad among all Egyptians. His renown would be written in the history books that General Apis had successfully routed successive Kushite and Aksumite armies. There was no end to it. He was a renowned general. The Aksumite and Kushites found Apis their bane, and while the flooding of the Nile had started to begin, Apis in the meanwhile had begun the preparation for the invasion of the Aksumites and the Kushites. Meanwhile, General Tutu, who was part of the Ptolemaic families, had been installed by the Ptolemaic court, and it was his victories against a marauding Aksumite army that angered Apis, because Apis didn't want the Ptolemaic court to basically, gain victories and then conquer, let's say, one of the Seleucid lands in Jerusalem, and then basically rebel against most of the gains that Apis was making. And Apis was making good gains. Each and every time the Egyptians and the each and every time that the Aksumites tried to send an army, Apis would destroy it. And Tutu didn't like that. General Tutu, that was his name. He was in the court of Apis to make sure that he won victories, not for Apis, but victories for the Ptolemaic court of Egypt. And the Ptolemaic court had been doing successful so far. They had pretty much, stood against Nabatea and the Seleucids and many other factions. But one would have to see, because Tutu had become a bit too ambitious. Tutu had meanwhile begun building his own personal army, recruiting his own troops. He was waiting to prepare to conquer Egypt, in a way. But not just conquer Egypt, but conquer, the Seleucids. And Tutu was that general, that was in Mios Homos. Tutu, meanwhile, General Tutu that is, now led an invasion of Jerusalem. While his advisors had told him not to attack Jerusalem, Tutu was unimpressed. Tutu thought that he could win. General Tutu, that was his name, ironically, I don't know who named him that way, during my campaign of course. General Tutu ordered the attack. It was an impossible attack because the Seleucid garrison was much better equipped than the Egyptian attacking army. But Tutu had employed some Nabatean mercenaries, so he thought he could have won. He had asked for support from the Nabateans, but no support had come from them, which was the most weirdest thing ever. Weirdest? Or they knew that attacking Jerusalem was suicide. It was impossible. One couldn't simply go and attack Jerusalem, could they? And while Tutu's army began to prepare for the eventual conquest of Jerusalem, he basically found, within a few minutes of the assault on Jerusalem, that happened in Jerusalem, it turned into an utter failure. Most of his troops were retreating. It seemed the Greek missiles had the power of the gods. The invasion failed very, very badly. And if not most of the troops began to retreat. They just couldn't listen to General Tutu. And who would go into battle listening to General Tutu, by the way? General Tutu died, which made the Ptolemaic court absolutely outraged, and they threatened to go back to the Ptolemaic court. And Apis couldn't have that. Apis needed their power. He needed their influence. So he got rid of one of the generals again, who replaced Tutu, and replaced him with Tutankhamun, an Egyptian turncoat who was more loyal to his Greek roots than his Egyptian roots, more or less. Tutankhamun would do the work for the time being. In the meanwhile, Apis was destroying more and more Aksumite and Kushite armies that were being sent. Apis was the torchbearer. And Apis was really young, I think he was around 24 or something. But he was proven to be the Napoleon of Egypt. The actual ancient version of Napoleon of Egypt. You know? Apis was soon preparing for an invasion, but each and every time he tried to invade, whether it was, invading Kush or Aksumite, he would lose men. The treasury would go bankrupt. So Apis was meanwhile slowly calculating that he would have to basically conquer and destroy much of the Aksumite armies. With his royal spy, he would capture them one by one, engage them into battle, making sure that they could not support each other, no matter even if they outnumbered his small army. His small army had veterans, but he had that, and he would make sure that he would do it. And within the next episode that you're going to watch, you're going to see the eventual destruction of the Kushites and the Aksumites. Please don't forget to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next episode of Kemet.